From the Evening Standard in London, I'm David Marsland, and this is The Leader. Some people miss the office so much they've been turning to YouTube channels like this one to hear the sounds of other people at desks. But even though some surveys show as many as 60% of people in London say they'd like to go back to the office, data shows that last month fewer than 40% actually had. The Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, has been trying to encourage young people to go and sit at a desk, saying it was really beneficial to him at the start of his career. But what about those older workers? There's a call for them to get back to the office too. Our political editor Nicholas Cecil is here. Nicholas, what's been happening?
Yes, well, this is what the Skills Minister, Gillian Keegan, was suggesting this morning. So there's been lots of talk about how young employees need to get back into the office to develop their careers, their skills. But Ms Keegan, she was pointing out that young workers, if they return to the office and just sit there by themselves, they're not going to learn anything. So it really needs the older workers to come back into the office as well, other workplaces, and to pass on their skill and their expertise. And so she's saying, yes, they do have an obligation to do that. The government isn't quite telling firms that their workers should go back into the office, but the message seems to be increasingly strong that they should gradually ramp up the return to the workplace starting this summer.
Yeah, it must be quite an odd experience being a young person without those older mentors being around you. I mean, I remember when I was, it's a long time ago now, but when I was a trainee journalist, just getting passing comments from the older people in the office would be useful to me on, things like, maybe that sentence could be better written, that sort of stuff. I don't know if you remember being a trainee at all, Nick, but that sort of, those veterans and the advice they gave you was really important.
Yes, that's a while back, but no, certainly some of best learned lessons in journalism were learned as a trainee. For example, always having to write stories about people rather than subjects, and to personalise them as much as possible. What Ms Keegan was saying, and the Chancellor Rishi Sunak has been saying, is that learning that understanding the work practices and basic skills of the workplace. Young employees can't learn these over Zoom.
And there must be quite a lot of young people who have started maybe even their first jobs and have never been inside an office, have never actually physically met their co-workers because these lockdowns have gone on for so long.
Yes, a number of apprentices and other interns and other people starting their careers have been sitting at home in a room with no one around them, basically trying to learn the skills and learn a job, which is obviously extremely difficult. As the Skills Minister, Ms Keegan, was saying, that these people are often desperate to get back into the office.
But how is the government leading this itself, Nicholas? How many civil servants, those people working with our politicians, how many of those are actually back in the office themselves right now?
Well, that's a very good question. So certainly if you're looking at the Department for Education, they say about 20 to 25% of their staff are back in the office on any given day. There are people in the private sector saying the government should do more to actually get people back into Whitehall. And if they did, it would then make it easier for firms and businesses across the country to persuade some of their workers to return to the office. The government is stressing that all this must be done safely in a COVID-secure way. There are obviously some work practices, health and safety guidelines and rules that still need to be followed.
So we're talking about going back to the office, but of course, Nicholas, this is the time of year where most people would have been thinking about heading out on holidays. Now, there's been a lot of talk and speculation about what the government's doing with its traffic light list. Has there been any update on that?
Yes, the traffic lights seem to be changing and they seem to be getting simpler, back to the original red, amber, green. So last night, the watch list, there were plans for that. That was ditched last night after a backlash from Tory MPs, from travel chiefs and from aviation bosses. That would have basically mean that people could see that a country was about to go red or might be about to go red. But the problem with that was that the travel industry bosses were saying that bookings would just evaporate, that people wouldn't book if they thought a country was on the verge of going red, which would mean having to quarantine in a government hotel on your return to the UK or on the return to England. A couple of other categories as well. There's Amber Plus, which is specific to France. And that means that you have to quarantine at home currently when you return from France. The Skills Minister, Gillian Keegan, she appeared to give a strong hint that that would disappear as well by suggesting that the government was going back to the original red, amber, green system. And there also was a green watch list, which was for countries that could turn amber. That appears to be on the way out as well. We should get the formal announcement on Thursday when the Transport Secretary, Grant Shapps, will give us the latest update on which countries are on which list.
And that's the Leader podcast. Go to standard.co.uk for more on this story. Check out the live blog for breaking news. We're back tomorrow at 4 p.m.